There are an extraordinary number of non-white voters, particularly men under the age of 50, who are drifting towards Donald Trump. These voters they're voting more often for the GOP now, but they're in particular more Donald Trump voters than GOP voters. They like Trump. They don't necessarily like the GOP, even as they have begun to be more open to voting for the Republicans. It's just an intriguing data point. And as a result, the Biden team is nervous. The Biden team sees the polling. They know they have a problem, which is why Joe Biden decided to go to Morehouse College and speak to the graduates at Morehouse. And I want to remind you of some of what he said. It was not the optimistic, shining city on the hill message. It was more specifically a message of despair and you poor people and America sucks for you.
You missed your high school graduation. You started college just as George Floyd was murdered. And there was a reckoning on race. It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
Really cheery, optimistic message. Now, let's contrast that with the former president of the United States speaking to a very, very diverse crowd in the Bronx.
Look, we had the greatest economy in history. Everybody here, where you have a small business or if you had a job, you were getting more than you ever made. And we had no inflation. We had no 1.4%. Considered none, considered better than none, because frankly, none in its own way is a bad thing also. We had a perfect number, 1.4%. It doesn't matter whether you're black or brown or white or whatever the hell color you are, it doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we're going to pull together as Americans.
Crowd goes wild, but wait, also this coverage from CBS News.
What else really stood out to you about the rally?
I will say this rally did look a lot like America. There was a lot of Asian voters there. There were a lot of Hispanic voters, a lot of black voters there, which is not typical for a Trump rally that I go to when I'm in Wisconsin or Michigan. Yeah. So that's what was fascinating.
But it is a cross-section of New York.
Exactly, exactly. And that's specifically why Trump was there yesterday. Those are key demographics that he sees are starting to break for him just a little bit. That door is opening for Hispanic voters to start voting for Trump in record numbers. They want to capitalize on that in this election. They think if they do, it'll spell success for them.
They're not wrong, by the way. They're not wrong. Here's Michael Singleton. He was talking to Anderson Cooper last night on CNN about this rally.
And if you could somewhat put the state in play a little bit by making your opponent have to spend more or do more in terms of resources to shore up that base, that key constituency, then I think strategically that's very sound. I mean, look, I've been involved in Republican politics, Anderson, for a very long time, going all the way back to teenage Republicans, to being the president of my college Republican chapter, to going fast forward to 2012 after working with Mitt Romney. We lost that race, and the RNC at the time published the Growth and Opportunity Project. I remember my dear friend Elise Stefanik, now Congresswoman, reached out and said, hey, I'd love to get your assessment on strategy in terms of what the party should do in regards to outreach. The party wasn't successful, Anderson, and fast forward, out of all people, Donald Trump appears, at least, to be attempting to make some efforts. And I wouldn't ignore these things. I don't think anyone should be so presumptive to just assume that people, regardless of their race, will vote one way or the other.
Yes, you shouldn't. And the Democrats have gone into ideology and skin color politics for so long. They're missing a big issue here that's starting only now to dawn on the Biden administration. You got problems here. This is a little more from the coverage at CNN, where they suddenly realized, well, this actually crowd looks like the people of the Bronx.
Particularly given this is one of the bluest counties in the entire country. Now, one of the things that was interesting to me is that the Trump campaign said that they were going to micro-target to get people from the community to come to this rally. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've gone to a lot of these rallies across the country, and there are often people who travel hundreds of miles to see Donald Trump, and they're not necessarily part of the community. However, one of the things that I found was that there were a lot of people here that were actually from the Bronx. Before we even came into the rally, so that, of course, once we were in, it was all people supporting him. But before we actually even came in, we talked to a number of people outside in the community, and the reaction to him being here was really mixed. You had people saying he doesn't belong here, he should get out. But you also had a number of people, voters, who told me that they had supported Biden in 2020. They were very unhappy, particularly with the state of the economy, and they were looking for alternatives, namely former President Donald Trump. Anderson.
Looking for an alternative because they're unhappy with the economy. Fox News went out onto the street to interview some of the people who were there to go to the rally.
See Democrats now coming out and they're like, oh, Trump is not welcome here. Who are you?
I think he should definitely come to the neighborhood.
He should come. He should check out the people because, see, Trump is for the little man.
Not all Democrats vote Democrat. I happen to be one of those Democrats that hasn't voted Democrat since the age of Ronald Reagan.
People that weren't interested in politics, now they're watching a sham trial. They're watching all these things happen, and they're just like, what is going on?
You think? This is actually problematic for Democrats because what people miss is they say, well, New York's never going to vote for Donald Trump. They're right. They're right. The state of New York is going to be reliably Democrat again. But Donald Trump only needs a few percentage points in the shift. He only needs a few percentage points. It's going to be a close race nationally. Democrats are worried Trump could win the popular vote. Remember, there's been this effort among progressive states in the last decade to do an interstate compact. They've become so convinced that Democrats will never lose the popular vote again. What they've decided to do is bind their state to the popular vote. So, for example, if Donald Trump wins a state like Wisconsin's a bad example. I should go with Michigan because the Democrats there are trying it. So Donald Trump wins the state of Michigan, but nationally, Joe Biden wins the popular vote. What Michigan's law would do is say our electoral college has to go with the national popular vote, not with what our citizens chose. It completely disrespects the citizens of that state in honor to adhere to democratic orthodoxy and go with the popular vote nationwide, something the founders didn't want. The problem here, what Democrats are realizing is if Donald Trump shifts only a few percentage points among Hispanics and a few percentage points among black voters, he can win the electoral college and the popular vote. And they're having a real panic about that. I mean, this is some of Donald Trump's message in the Bronx last night.
African Americans are getting slaughtered. Hispanic Americans are getting slaughtered. And these millions and millions of people that are coming into our country, the biggest impact and the biggest negative impact is against our black population and our Hispanic population, who are losing their jobs, losing their housing, losing everything they can lose.
A message that Joe Biden can't compete with, and one the polling suggests is resonating in the black and Hispanic communities. The most vehement opponents of illegal immigration in the United States are Hispanic voters in the country. Something Democrats have missed all along. Hispanic voters in this country are people who came here legally, and in coming here legally, they followed the rules to get here, which are cumbersome and have gotten worse over the years. And they resent like hell people essentially jumping the fence and skipping the line. They resent it because they took the time and effort to come here legally. They made a decision to become an American, not just to come here. They don't like it that it's so easy to cross the border and fill up our cities with illegal immigrants who also are competing for jobs and state resources and straining taxpayers. It's a problem. You don't believe me? Listen to this from NBC News.
It comes as a new battleground poll shows voters say they are more worried about President Biden's policy on immigration than Mr. Trump's on abortion. One silver lining for the president: those numbers actually flip when you look at third-party and undecided voters.
But third-party and undecided voters, okay, it flips. A lot of those undecided voters are young women who are going to vote Democrat anyway, if they show up at all. But among voters who are going to vote already, more voters are concerned about immigration than they are abortion. And more voters hold immigration against Joe Biden than hold abortion against Donald Trump. Big red flag there for the Democrats. The wheels are starting to come off. And then you add crime into the mix. Kathy Hochul is the governor of New York. She was on CNN to respond to the Trump rally.
Working against hate crimes and domestic violence and retail theft. I just passed an historic budget with serious laws to protect New Yorkers from retail theft, shutting down illegal cannabis shops. So this whole Republican narrative that Democrats are not, as hard as we need to be on public safety is just false, and no one should be buying it. So I reject that premise. We are out there making sure that our number one priority will continue to be public safety, job number one for all of us.
Right. Well, why do you have that guy still in jail who protected people on the subway? Nobody buys Kathy Hochul's rhetoric on crime because they're living in third world hellholes around New York where progressive prosecutors are refusing to prosecute any crime not related to Donald Trump. They'll even let Michael Cohen get away with a Class C felony just to get Donald Trump. People don't believe it. Their voters are rebelling against Democratic crime policies. Voters are rebelling in this country against progressives on immigration, on crime, on jobs, on inflation. Inflation continues to be the number one issue, and it doesn't help that so many reporters out there are running these stories. Voters falsely believe we're in a recession. I realize there's a technical definition for recession. But when your family believes they're in a recession, it's probably not best to lecture them that they're deluded liars. It doesn't go over well with voters who already look on the media as part of the elite and presume a lot of these reporters are probably wealthier than they are. But to have these reporters lecture people on the state of the economy really rubs people the wrong way. Learn the lesson of George H.W. Bush from 1992. Lecturing Americans on the economy didn't get him very far. Yet this is all Democrats have, a lecturing tone to Americans that actually your life doesn't suck, believe us, not your lived experience. For years, Democrats have elevated the lived experience of Americans, and now that lived experience is turning on the Democrats, and the Democrats are furious about it, telling you not to believe your lying eyes, believe them instead. It's not working. Donald Trump has put his finger on the pulse of a segment of society that is leaving the Democratic Party over jobs, over the economy, over illegal immigration, over crime. And the Democrats, the best they can do is lecture those people and tell them they're stupid. That's not a way to win an election in this country in the 21st century.